Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I hope you enjoyed this interview. Many Nigerians are pushed deeper into poverty not by the choice of theirs, but by the prevailing economic landscape shaped by tough macroeconomic policies. The measures like the removal of fuel subsidies, the devaluation of the naira, and rising electricity tariffs have triggered a series of unintended consequences. For example, of course, you've seen that eliminating subsidies has drastically increased the cost of living, while the weakened naira has driven up the prices of imported goods, coupled with worsening insecurity. These factors have intensified food insecurity, creating a perfect storm of economic hardship. The signs of these harsh realities are visible everywhere, every nook and cranny of the country. Efforts to prevent this downward spiral are either insufficient or perhaps even slow in being effected, leaving inflation to continuously erode the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. With no immediate relief in sight, high inflation has become a silent enemy, not just for individuals, but for the economy. When inflation persists, it cripples businesses and households, making everyday essentials increasingly unaffordable. Today's interview, we're exploring the social impact of inflation, or perhaps stagflation also, on individuals, families, and businesses. We'll delve into the effects on human capital development, the Human Development Index, and discuss potential solutions to mitigate these crippling challenges. Joining me now is Chief Johnson Chukwu, the Group Managing Director of Cowry Assets Management. And like I mentioned earlier, this will be an interactive program where you can share your thoughts through our open phone lines in a bit. Chief Chukwu, good morning and good to see you.
Good morning, Chief Nancy, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let's get started. Okay, I was reading something earlier, the types of inflation. You're an economist, and I saw creeping, walking, running, as well as hyperinflation. The types of inflation that we have. What type of inflation do you think that we have in Nigeria? Let's start from there. 32.15% inflation rate according to the NBS. I don't know if I've spoken to you since that inflation rate came out, but anyway, what kind of inflation do we have at 32.5%? And what I also did this morning, and I hope that my team will put that on air, the inflation rates in Africa. We try to compile inflation rates in Africa. That's it, yes. Countries, no, let's see the countries with high inflation rates in Africa first. Countries with high inflation rates in Africa. Nigeria, I think, was number 4, if I'm not mistaken, after the likes of South Sudan, Zimbabwe, Malawi. You're seeing Nigeria there. What we were able to do was to get 12 countries with high and low inflation. So just digest that a bit, Chief Chukwu. Nigeria coming in at number 4 at 32.15%. So what kind of inflation do we have in Nigeria?
Okay, once again, Chief Nancy, I would say is that the inflation we have today is what we call in technical terms cost push inflation, not demand pull inflation. Of course, we are not facing hyperinflation. There was a time we had the threat of hyperinflation, and that was around February, March this year, when we saw prices change almost on an hourly basis, and then shop floors or supermarkets stopped attaching prices to their commodities or their products. But I think we've gone beyond that, and we have a high inflation rate, but it is cost push and not demand pull. And why do I have to emphasize the fact that cost push? Because if you know the causative factors to an inflationary pressure, then you deal with it. You attack the causative factors or the root causes of those inflation. A demand pull inflation is basically an inflation that's driven by so much liquidity in the hands of consumers who are buying up goods, demanding goods. Some of the goods they may not even need, but because they have so much money, they are buying up anything. And because productive capacity has not caught up with that level of demand, the prices go up, because it's simply said that the simple definition of inflation is when so much money is purchasing so few goods. So in that case, a demand pool is when you have a lot of liquidity. Either you have a wide credit expansion like we had in 2005 or so, after the banking consolidation, 2005, 2006. But what we are dealing with today is cost push, in the sense that the cost of imported items have gone up because of exchange rate devaluation. So when you imported an item last year, maybe at even 750 naira per dollar, assuming you are using the parallel market to import, and today you have to import the same item at 1,600 naira per dollar, then it simply means the effective landing cost of that commodity has moved more than doubled. So you will have to pass on that cost. So you are dealing with a cost push inflation. The other factor we have to look at is that we also have a situation where we have shortage of goods produced, particularly food items. So in that case, it's supply-induced inflation. So in that case, in case of when you talk of food inflation, it's basically shortage in supply that is driving up prices. So it's still, it's now we are looking at, in case of food inflation, you're looking at supply-induced inflation because we have severe issues around the food producing base of the country due to insecurity. And therefore, we're not able to produce the same quantity or the same volume of food that we used to produce. And the demand for food is increasing, whereas we do not have an improvement in food production. Take, for instance, if you look at the first quarter GDP, agricultural sector grew by only 1.4%, for 1.41%, whereas our population is growing about 2.4%. It simply means every year we are increasing the number of people that need demand for food at 2.4%, whereas the quantity of additional food we produce, if you year-on-year GDP growth rate, was only 1.4%. Previous year, quarter was only 0.18%. I mean, first quarter of this year. So you are producing fewer goods compared to the number of people that are born into the economy or into the country that are eating that food. And that's why I said, look, when you talk of food inflation, they're kind of supply-induced inflation. So you have supply bottlenecks that are compelling people to be ready to pay higher prices to get the same quantity of goods that are now in short supply.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. I don't know if you really answered the question we asked. I know as economists, una too get many theories, but I understand what you're saying. There's demand pull, there's cost push, there's also built-in inflation, as it were. But like I mentioned, like I was reading earlier, that you have walking, creeping, what else again, running, then hyperinflation. Perhaps we are not even in the hyperinflation side, but I understand what you're trying to say. But why I asked that question is that what kind of inflation are we having now? Either is a walking or a running inflation, but I understand you. So let me leave that a bit and let's go on to something else. Let's take a look at this inflation that we have, 32.15%. Please, in simple and human terms, can you really explain what an average Nigerian who earns about 70,000 naira now struggles with a 32.15% inflation? What does that mean for that average Nigerian that has a household of, let's just say a household of 3, a man, a wife, okay, a household of 4, a man, a wife with 2 children. What does it mean? Let's humanize it, because sometimes we are lost in these numbers. And I always say that statistics are human beings.
Okay, Nancy, on a lighter note, an average Nigerian household is more than 4.
Yes, I know.
Highly educated people like you that are having 4-person household. Most Nigerian households are in
Chief Chukwu, my household is even more than 4 because I feed more than that. You know, my household is more than that right now. Because I have dependents too, so they're more than that.
Okay, so back to the substance of your question. Well, what the 32.15% inflation figure means to an average household is this. If you spend 100 naira to buy a basket of food, let's assume you used to spend 1,000 naira to make it convenient. You used to use 1,000 naira to buy your vegetable, your potato, your tomato, your yam tuber, and all those things. Your basket, when you go to the market to buy, was 1,000 naira last year, August. It then means you now need 1,320 naira, 1,315 naira to buy the same items that you used to buy with 1,000 naira. So that's when you saw when you say inflation has moved up by 32.15%. Simply means you now have to add 321 naira 321 naira 50 kobo. That's what you need to add to be able to buy the same quantity of goods. So if your income has not increased by 32.15%. So it then means you can no longer afford the same basket of food items you used to go to the market to buy with 1,000 naira. So in that case, you can only buy about 70% of what you used to buy, or 68% of what you used to buy. So in effect, if you have to take those items on a unit basis, then whatever you used to buy 10 units, you can only buy 6 units of it now. So in effect, if that 1,000 naira is what you used to feed your family per meal, then it then means today you can at best feed them twice in a day. And that's the implication for an average Nigerian household, that effectively our cost of living has gone up by 32.15%. And our standard of living, or what we can currently afford with our income, assuming our income has not improved, has been devalued by 32.15% between August last year and this year. So you can only afford 32.60, about 67% of what you were eating last year. So which means you can afford only 1/3, 2/3 of what your family could afford last year. And that's why Nigerians are hurting.
You know, okay, I said that this show will try to humanize inflation. And if we take a look at 32.15%, let's even take a look at it really, because even in the last 2-3 months, inflation have been worse than 32.15%. But if we even take 32.15% inflation, and for someone that is earning about 70,000, without 32.15% inflation, that means that over 22,500 naira has been eroded from your income, as it were. So what in real terms that you are earning now, from my calculation, is about 47,495 naira as a result of that. You know, so what does this do? What is the social impact of that on a man or a woman that is earning that right now, on food in the household, on the children's education, and perhaps on health?
Well, a couple of things our family households are doing, which is basically the practicality of what we're facing today. One is that they are adjusting their household consumption. They are eliminating things they cannot afford that are not absolutely necessary. Unfortunately, an average Nigerian household have not been living.
Chief Chukwu, sorry to interrupt. We've been eliminating that for a long time. For the past few years, we've been eliminating that. I spoke to someone, a lady, some months ago, and I was asking her questions like, okay, give us tips to survive this high inflation economy. She actually told me, Madam Nancy, we're out of tips. We don't know what to do anymore because Nigerians have been surviving on this. Yes, we've been surviving. We've eliminated frivolities since. Nobody is doing frivolities now. The people doing the frivolities are the high net worth individuals. Everybody now, Gary, even the Gary is now expensive. So this your postulation now, you know work.
No, not I'm coming. I'm coming. Okay. They come like they say in the Nigerian part.
Okay.
They come. So in the first place, so what the family and average household look at, they look at their basket of consumption and say, look, can we afford this? We can't afford this, so we eliminate the ones we can afford. The ones are not necessary. They adjust the items they consume into lower end value products or services. And what do I mean by also adjust the items they consume, their consumption into lower value or lower value items? Take, for instance, people are moving their children away from more expensive schools to cheaper schools. When you do that, you have actually compromised something. You are compromising quality of education. So in that case, you're ready to accept lower quality of education for your children because you can no longer afford the same quality of education you were giving them. Two, you look at even your food consumption. You adjust the consumption, maybe including the quality of what you eat. Probably if you used to put chicken in your meal, you say, my children, we can no longer put chicken here. So let's go and look for mushroom and then put mushroom in place of chicken. So that adjustment, like we said, they have gone through it for years and they have limited headroom for further adjustment. And Nancy, let me tell you one of the things that struck me this morning. I went out on a walk early this morning with my wife, and I saw Nigerians. This was like a few minutes after 6. I saw Nigerian two young men who are trying to make out a living. One was pulling, scavenging for items in dustbin, and I looked at him. He's not mad in any respect. Mm-hmm. He came out very early so that you won't see him scavenging for food or whatever valuable you could extract from dustbin. And I'm talking of Lekki Phase 1. And then you had another guy who was going to work, and you could see that he was obviously taking a long distance to get to where he was going to. And I shook my head. I told my wife that in this country, we are so unfortunate that the energies, the never say die spirit of these Nigerians, the pressures we are going through are all to make out a living, instead of channeling them to productive activities. Assuming the energies of these young people are channeled into manufacturing, into industrial complexes, where they are producing goods and services instead of just trying to survive, nothing would have been better than China. But unfortunately, every one of us is struggling to adjust our standard of living, our living styles to fit into a compressing and depressing economic environment.
Okay. Chief Chukwu, we have a caller, like I mentioned earlier. It's largely interactive. Let's hear from Nigerians that are really feeling this. Say now, person where they wear should know where they pinch them. We have Yes, we have Evangeline from Ogun State. I hope he's still on. Evangeline, good morning and welcome to the program. Can you hear me? Okay. I guess he should try and call us again. He is actually trying to reach us from Ogun State. Okay, for what you have said, Chief Chukwu, what do you think that the government can do? Because where a country is having, inflation, in the US, for example, was it some years ago, 1 or 2 years ago or so, the Biden administration came up with an Inflation Reduction Act, for example, because inflation in the country was so high. In fact, I said that you used to go to the US before, you have a dollar store, $1 shop. You go there, you see something $1. The last time I traveled to the US, there was nothing like $1 in any store that I entered, So, but the government was responsive to be able to come up with a policy to reduce inflation. And we've seen it so far. Yesterday, the Fed reduced interest rate by about 50 basis points, the first time in 4 years, to show that the economy is seemingly back on track. Now, in the country, inflation is making people bring out their children out of schools, compromising quality. We cannot eat anymore. I mentioned earlier that the number of Nigerians that will be malnourished will be so many. Egg you can't get, fish you cannot buy, crayfish yourself you can't buy. You talked about mushroom. Mushroom too is even big, is even expensive, except you go and be picking them along the street. And you should be careful not to pick poisonous mushrooms that you don't die at the end of the day. So what does the government do? For instance, in Lagos, Lagos state government did say, it's going to increase boarding fees for the model colleges from 35,000 naira, it was since 2021, till this year to about 100,000 naira. You will say it's understandable that the government, has been subsidizing that. But what kind of measures can the government come up with in a high inflationary environment for individuals?
Well, Nancy, my approach to it is that we need to go to the root of the inflationary pressures. If other than that, we can prefer palliatives here, but palliatives are never...
Okay, Chief Chukwu, please, can you just hold on a bit? We have Alexander from Benue joining us. Alex, good morning and welcome. You have 30 seconds to make your point. Hello, Alex. Okay, I don't know what is happening, but Chief Chukwu, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying is that there is always the attraction to prefer palliatives as a solution to fundamental economic challenge, but it never works. It's always what it is, palliative, like when you have a dislocation and they have to give you pain relief. Immediately pain relief wear off, the pain will come back. So let's look at the fundamental issues that are driving inflationary pressure. I have said earlier that the inflationary pressure, the core inflation is coming from what we call cost push inflation, while as the demand inflation, the food inflation is coming from supply bottlenecks. And that's where we should focus on. Let's start from the core inflation. The major challenge we have with core inflation is the pass-through effect of Naira depreciation, which we have highlighted here. We've seen Naira depreciate. At official win, it was about 430 Naira to $1 in April last year. Today, at both windows, you're talking about 1,500 to 1,600, or almost 1,650 at the parallel market. So the implication of that, whatever is imported to this country, the cost has more than doubled. And then the importers or the trader will pass on that cost to the average consumer. So how do we deal with that? Why is Naira depreciating or devaluing? Because we are not earning enough foreign exchange, which is, I said, we should focus on the heavy lifting, the core issues. Why are we not earning enough foreign exchange? Because we are not producing enough crude. So the emphasis would be, what do we need to do in the short to medium term to improve our crude oil production to the region of 2.5 million barrels, 3 million barrels, even if our target is to achieve 3 million barrels in 3 years, but we can achieve 2.2. The budget is predicated on 1.78 million barrels a day. In the first quarter of this year, the second quarter, excuse me, the second quarter of this year, we only produced 1.41 million barrels a day. Though we saw an increase, it was an increase compared to the 1.22 million barrels we produced in the second quarter of last year. But back to the issue that we should focus on producing more crude. How do we produce more crude? We need to address the issues around in the Niger Delta. Pipeline breaches, investment, encourage investment back into exploration and production. That can only happen when you address the insecurity of the pipeline, the transportation facility in the Niger Delta for crude. That's one. Second aspect is the issue of what supply challenges we have with food production. Why is it Nigeria, previously, 10, 15 years ago, we never thought that Nigeria could be so food insecure because we have, by nature, major food base of the country. We live between the tropical rainforest and the Sahara and Sahel region. We only a few part of our country is Sahel region. But between the tropical rainforest you have in the south, to the middle belt, and then to the tropical you have in northern regions, we can produce almost every edible food. If you look at crop production in the country, it's our greatest forte. But unfortunately, we've allowed insecurity to permeate every food production region producing region of this country. The North Central is harassed by header settlers issues. You have the Northeast and the Boko Haram, and then you have the Northwest. You are dealing with bandits. And a lot of people who were producing this who are living in entirely displaced persons' homes, and therefore not able to produce. So if we address those two issues, crude production in the Niger Delta region and food production in the northern and the north central region, the northeast, northwest, and north central region, we are going to address the issue of the challenges we have in terms of foreign exchange earnings that will help us stabilize Naira, and in terms of food production that will help us bring down the food inflation to a reasonable level. Those are the core issues that we need to focus on. There are palliatives. Government has removed subsidy on well, not subsidy, the government had removed the duty on rice importation and other food items. But the reality is that we are still landing dead food items at the exchange rate of 1,600.
And they're still expensive.
Yeah, they are still expensive. So, and not only considering the implications of those duties waivers on local production, because ultimately you're going to have the impact on rice production, negative impact on rice production, because if eventually those rice you're importing begin to outcompete the locally made rice, what will happen? Those who are producing rice will shift from producing rice to be importing rice, and your local production will weaken and further lengthen the time it takes you to achieve food security in your country. So the key thing, and let's address the issue of security, that's it. And let's bear in mind that our crop production are basically short gestation period products. Maize, how long does it take maize to mature and be harvested? How long does it take cassava to mature and be harvested? How long does it take rice to mature and be harvested? All these things are in cycles of less than 6 months. So if we get the security situation right, we have the prospect of having 2-season production of many of these food crop items. And within the next 1 year, we will achieve the level of food security that we used to have 20 years ago.
You know, okay. Let me still say that this program is interactive today. You can call the number on the screen. My team, of course, did put the number earlier on. Perhaps it's bad network, but I'm also being told that people will call and drop the call. So please do not flash us. Don't call to to just test, are we on? Then you cut. This program is a serious show, so please call. We would like to know how you're dealing with inflation and how inflation is impacting your family, your business, and even your household. So please do call. Don't call to flash. Call to make your statement or your opinion, or even ask a question. Chief Chukwu, what we're actually... Yes, you wanted to say something?
Yes, yeah, so they are not flashing you. We were talking of adjustment of household expenditure. These people can now no longer afford to hold the phone for 2 minutes for you to come online.
Yeah, because telecom tariffs too, if it has not even gone up, because there was a time there was a struggle. No, we are taking it up. We're also facing harsh business realities, and there was a hue and cry. It seems the telecoms people were not able to do that. But let's take a look at the effects of inflation, as we're saying. You did talk about eroding purchasing power. If we can put that card back on the screen. Increase in the cost of living, which we've talked about. Decreases in customers' purchases. In fact, someone was telling me some weeks ago that he used to go to where he used to buy pizza. Pizza, of course, is even an expensive commodity now. He used to go to where he used to buy pizza. And he will be there for 2-3 hours. Nobody else will come in within those 2-3 hours. Or even if someone comes in, it's either 1 or 2. So the impact on customers' purchases, like you mentioned earlier on, that people are cutting down to essentials. But I think I have Chinyere calling in from Lagos. Hello, Chinyere. I hope it's not also bad network. I hope it's not bad network. Chinyere is calling us from Lagos. Hello, Chinyere. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Chukwu, how do you want to respond to this in terms of customers are reducing their purchases and businesses are struggling? And that struggle will lead to a lot of business closures.
Okay, Nancy, sometimes when we have the Bureau of Statistics publish their reports, I don't think the government takes some of those reports as input for policy making. If you look at the Q2 GDP figure, you saw that the trade sector only expanded by 0.7%. That is symptomatic of the fact that Nigerians are no longer able to buy goods and services. Nigerian government was celebrating, gloating over the fact that we have positive balance of trade in Q2, where our import was 12 trillion and our export was 19 trillion. They forgot the fact that in second quarter of last year, our import was 6.3 trillion, our export was 6.4 trillion. So what changes is that Nigerians are no longer able to buy some basic needs, some of their basic needs, and therefore they are cutting down on everything. And like you said, a lot of Nigerians are going through difficulties maintaining just some semblance of decent standard of living. The implications are multifaceted. You consider the fact that a lot of people are depressed. We are seeing high rate of suicide in the country, which when Nigerians used to be classified as the happiest people on earth. Can you remember that, Nancy?
Yes, I remember.
Now,
yes.
Some of the happiest people on earth.
Yes.
If you see high rate of suicide, it simply means people are very sad and depressed. So people are going through a lot of mental stress, trying to meet basic needs. We're having sudden deaths. What are those sudden deaths? People are despondent, and if people are despondent, anything that makes their heart to, like we say in Nigerian parlance, their heart will cut. And then, so there are too many things about that. But also you have the issue of crime. It's easier to recruit young people into criminal gangs because they are not able to hold down a decent job, and they don't know where the next meal will come. And if you entice them with the fact that the prospect that you could give them better standard of living if they join your criminal group, they are likely going to have joined. That is why we're having increased cases of bandits in the northern region of the country. In the south, you have, for instance, the south, you have the unknown gunmen. So you ask yourself, what are the motivations for people to join such groups? It's partly because of the current economic situation we have in the country. Well, as some other people are resorting to religion, looking for miracles. So the reality is that we are dealing with also something that have dovetailed into major social challenge that we have beyond the fact that people are adjusting their income, people are shifting away from basic consumptions, people are just trying to eke out a living. For a country like this, I think that should be the priority of the government. The primary objective of the government is to improve the well-being and well-being and security of the citizens. So if the government takes its sight off its primary objective as enunciated in the Constitution, then there's a problem. And I don't think, of course, the government keeps telling us this necessary sacrifice in the long run will not be fine, but in the long run will not be dead. Nancy, one of the things I agonize as a man, no longer a young man, is that the lofty dreams I had about my country seem to be slipping out of my vision. Simple as I had hoped as a young boy that I would meet in my lifetime, this country would be a developed country. But the reality is that if we even start the process of repairing this economy tomorrow, it will take at least 10 years to 20 years to achieve medium income standard. And that is not what many of us that were born then had aspired for. And that's why a lot of young people are despondent. My son was telling me that he works with one of the big audit firms. And he said to me that his colleagues are living in droves. And I'm talking about one of the big audit firms in the world. He said they're living in droves, going to Canada. And their concept is that, look, when we get to Canada, we'll certainly, because of our skills, we're going to get jobs. We are not coming back to this country. And because no matter what you pay a young person, that's the situation we found ourselves that, no, it's difficult for you to work 8 to 5, salary or wage, and be able to buy a new car in this country. And when I say this, it's actually hot because we are not second-rated people in terms of intelligence or in terms of hard work or commitment to entrepreneurship. So why should we be in this situation as a people? That no decent person has a job that can aspire that in my lifetime with my salaries and savings, I'll buy a new car.
Okay, Chief Chukwu, just hold on a bit. Hello, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from, if you can hear me? Hello? Okay. Yes, good morning. Where are you calling from?
From Rivers State.
From Rivers State. Okay, go ahead. What's your name?
Rivers State.
Yes, I said go ahead with your comments. Go ahead with your comments quickly.
My question is, what impact is inflation having on saving and investment?
Okay, what impact is inflation having on savings and investment? I don't know if Chief Chukwu, if you could hear him, but okay, I didn't get your name. So what impact is inflation having on savings and investment? In fact, that was actually my next question, but he brought it out, so it's good. So thank you for calling. So Chief Chukwu, go ahead with that.
Inflation erodes the value of savings, and depending on the investment you have, you can actually have inflation can actually enhance the value of your investment or erode it. But in most investment classes, inflation erodes it. But let's take them one after the other. In terms of savings, your savings is on a constant monetary value. So if you have 700 naira, it's 100 naira. Well, so what you get as a reward for your saving is interest interest income you earn on your savings. So if that interest income is lower than the inflation rate, then the value of saving is eroded, which is why in high inflationary period, people stop saving and start consuming, because they will say, instead of keeping this money now, let me buy this item today, because if I hold it tomorrow, the price would have gone beyond what I've earned from interest on that savings. So in high inflation is a disincentive to savings, unless you are living in an economy where interest rate is higher than inflation rate. And in a high inflationary period, environment, it's difficult for interest rates to be higher than inflation rate. So that's that. Then in terms of investment, like I said, it depends on what kind of category of investment you have. If you take, for instance, people who had invested in equities, Nigerian equities last year, where equity gained about 45%. So an inflation rate last year was still in the region of 27, 28%. So it then means they actually earned returns higher than the inflation rate. People who are investing in real estate, properties, particularly high-end properties in the island, Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Banana Island, and some of the highbrow areas in Lagos are also outpacing, getting returns that are outpacing inflation. But beyond that, most other investment classes are giving returns below inflationary rate. So once your return is below inflation, the value of your investment is eroded to the extent that the inflation rate is higher than the return on your investment.
What's your name and where are you calling from? Okay, that dropped. So let's see. Hello.
Good afternoon, Nancy.
Okay, good morning. It's still morning here. Good morning. Where are you calling from? What's your name? Very quickly.
I'm calling from area 11, Abuja.
Okay, go ahead with your question. What's your name?
My question is, I heard you talking about shawarma, pizza. Me,
Pizza.
I went to my normal amana joint on Saturday, thinking I will use my 2,000 naira as I used to be because I travel, I've not been around. I now discovered that 5,000 cannot buy me what I used to buy.
Okay. Noted. Thank you. Chief Chukwu, he actually said that I was talking about pizza before, and I mentioned pizza is a luxurious food now. Person who don't chop belle food, now they chop pizza. But he actually mentioned that he traveled and just came back and went to his normal and amala joint here in Abuja. What he used to get for 2,000 naira, 5,000 naira, couldn't get it. So amala also is a common man's food. So you want to respond to that? Or let's see if we can take another caller. Then we can go ahead with your response. Hello. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Chineye. I'm calling from Abuja here, Jahi, precisely.
Okay, go ahead, Chineye.
Mr. Johnson Chukwu, God bless you for everything you and Nancy are doing. We are seeing everything. God will bless you people. My sister, savings, investment, now this kind of economy, person never even chop a food.
Okay.
You're talking of investing or saving.
Okay.
My sister, Johnson Chukwu was talking about that people have to go and buy something and keep because when they go next time, it will top money. Now, what they do?
Okay. Noted. No, yours is noted. Chief Chukwu, you can hear what our respondents are saying. So what do you have to say about that? That we are talking of savings and investment in this economy where people are struggling to eat. So you want to respond because we're still having a lot of calls coming, but we have about 2 minutes to the end.
Okay, but Nancy, for the purpose of your program, I'm just Mr. Chukwu. When we go to Wake my home, you can call me Chief Chukwu.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, the truth about amala is not just unique, peculiar to amala. Amala is a byproduct of cassava, and we know that the cassava tubers have gone up. If you look at the inflation,
cassava or yam?
Yeah, both cassava and yam.
Okay.
It's either cassava or yam. If you look at the food inflation figure for month of August, food inflation came at the print of 37.53%, 52%. And that food inflation, the drivers were the likes of yam tuber, cassava, potato, and that's what where amala is made from. So it's clear that amala, not just amala, virtually every food item today have gone up, which is why Nigerians are hurting. And if you look at the basket average Nigerian consumption, the 50%, more than 50% is food. So if food prices have gone up by 37.52% in August, then you can relate with the impact on average Nigerian.
Okay, let's take this last caller. We have just about 10 seconds for you. Hello, good morning. Where are you calling from? What's your name?
Good morning. My name is Gordon. I'm calling you from Sharp Corner, Maraba.
Okay, go ahead. What's your comment?
Okay, actually, I heard you talking about drugs. Diabetic and the drugs I used to get for 3,600 to 4,000 before is about 26,000 plus now. And the food inflation has also affected us in the sense that some of us are low income earner and we are having illness can no longer eat the food that will help us to sustain our diet.
Okay.
And it has affected me so badly. And the business we are doing also, the little business we are doing by the side, is not starting because of taxes and a lot of inflation.
Okay, I think the point is well noted. Thank you very much. Your point is well noted. Mr. Chukwu, you see what I mentioned before. He used to get a drug for 369, it's about 26,000. I mentioned it earlier that life expectancy will even be lower than 55 for women and 52 for men. It depends on who is gauging it. The food that is supposed to make your body healthy, you can't afford it anymore. As we close.
So what do you want from me, Nancy?
Yes. So what do you have to say in closing as we close? Of course, you've heard Nigerians from the cross a spectrum speaking, Lagos, Benue, Ogun State, Rivers, Abuja here speaking, and it's still a feeling of dissatisfaction.
No, I think, Nancy, at this point is what do we say to the government? Because one of your program is supposed to, well, educate the citizens, also speak to the government. The government must actually come from their high horse and feed the pulse of the citizens. Nigerians are hurting. Economic policies must make windows, rooms for Nigerians to survive in the short term, while for the benefits in the long run. Nigerians are struggling to make ends meet, and they have actually exhausted their creative thoughts on how to make a living out of this country.
I think, Mr. Chukwu, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your insights this morning. And at least the beautiful thing this morning was that it's interactive. So it's not just as if we're talking to ourselves. People are actually listening and people are responding. Thank you very much, Chief Chukwu. I'll see you again some other time.
Thank you, Chief Nancy.
All right, I've been speaking with Johnson Chukwu, who is the Group Managing Director at Cowry Assets Management. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. But what I would just say, let's just still sit tight, and still be resilient. I know it's not easy, but we don't have another choice. All right, be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye for now. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't subscribe to the channel. Drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.